that the board has, if it doesn't, if it isn't happy with my performance as chair or my performance in setting the agenda, it can remove me as chair. But what you're positing here is that the board has, kind of behind the scenes and without any sort of public action, has an ability to overturn what is published law, on the county website.
No, the board provided its direction in public in, I believe it was August 15th, when it gave staff the green light to schedule the meetings and to continue work on the 2 annual reports.
So you're not grappling with the basic issue here. So a directive from the board to staff overturns the published law, on the Benton County website.
So the direction is to staff and to the committee, Mr. Chair.
Whether that it's that way or not, all I'm saying is there is indeed a published law, and you're looking at it right here. And the board can change that, but it can't just wish it away. I invite other members of the Disposal Site Advisory Committee to comment here, because I'm not being terribly verbal about this. It's got me a little worked up.
Okay. I'm willing to say something. Oh, okay. I see Mark has his hand up, which is the appropriate thing to do. So go ahead, Mark.
Well, you go ahead, Marge, and I'll follow up with you. I can't turn my camera on at the moment, but you go ahead first.
Okay. Well, I just want to say that looking at these bylaws, it seems to me that Ken has a real good point here. And I have to say that it's pretty disturbing to me as a member of this advisory committee to see this army of Benton County community development folks on the screen. I mean, if you had each had your own little place like all of the rest of us do, I think I'd be a little more comfortable. But gosh, I just feel ganged up on. And I don't think I should feel that way as a resident of Benton County. I'm done.
Marge, there are 3 of us here. We're in the community development conference room. You have Daniel Reddick, you have Darren Nichols, and you have Linda Ray. So this is the crew that typically supports the Disposal Site Advisory Committee in its work.
Okay, let me just say one thing, Darren, is that this is the first time that I have personally seen you in a SWAC or DSAC meeting, although I understand that it was common in the past for the Director of Community Development to visit these meetings, to be a part of these meetings. In the past, actually, members of the Board of Commissioners were part of these meetings.
Right.
But that has not happened in the recent past, and that's why it takes me aback a bit.
So I guess I'll weigh in. I'm a little confused, Aaron, as to why you think the language of the code doesn't apply here. This is very similar to what the county commissioners did, ignoring the code language when they quote unquote dissolved SWAC. I guess I don't quite understand how the county commissioners feel that they have the authority to ignore Benton County code at their pleasure. And I wonder if you might explain that for the record.
So Mark, you're only looking at a portion of the bylaws, but the board reserves the right to provide direction or to set the agenda in other parts of the bylaws. You're right.
Can you point to that? Where is it said that? Where does it say that in the bylaws?
So I'll pull those up. Mr. Chair, I think if you have an alternative agenda, which we've seen a draft of, I'm just telling you that we put the agenda together at the staff level based on the direction that we were given by the Board of Commissioners. That's what we're authorized to do.
And yes, I'm not disputing that. However, the Board of Commissioners does not, in this case, have the authority to say that will be the final agenda. I do as chair. The committee prepares its own agenda. And that's very central to its mission. I mean, it's why it exists. I mean, let's talk about why there is a disposal site advisory committee. It's not to serve at the pleasure of, it's not essentially created by Benton County. It's created by the state. And it's created by the state in order that people like us have a voice, you know, in matters having to do with the regional disposal site, which is in Benton County. So, you know, the ability, taking away the ability for the committee to set its agenda, I mean, goes directly against that. And we can compare the two agendas if you want, you know, and we can take a look essentially at which one is actually going to be serving, you know, the people of Benton County. I mean, for example, my agenda has on it a provision for talking about the article that appeared in the Salem Statesman Journal about Coffin Butte landfill and its methane emissions, you know, basically saying that they're potentially hazardous methane emissions, landfill gas emissions at Coffin Butte landfill. That would seem to me to be something which is directly relevant to Benton County, the citizens of Benton County, and to this landfill. Is there any provision for that in your agenda? No, there is not. Instead, we are reviewing the minutes for the last year and a half or over a year. It just seems to me to be a gross disservice to the people, you know, to what this committee is, why it's been created and what it stands for, you know, for you, or to say the Board of Commissioners is exerting authority which it does not have on setting the agenda. I mean, I understand that staff received a directive to set the agenda, but however, when you actually look at what it says under the bylaws for the Disposal Site Advisory Committee, you know, it says that no, the chair does that. So essentially the Board of Commissioners were asking you to do something that you did not, as a matter of fact, have the power to do. And I think this is a good moment for me to segue into the communication that I've received, or rather the non-communication about this subject that I've received from you. Have I been alerted to essentially what you were going to do since August? There's not been a single communication about that. Did you respond in any way when I submitted my agenda? I can sense I'm getting heated up, and I'm going to calm down right now. But I just have to point out, this has been extraordinarily done. You know, I'm supposed to be the Disposal Site Advisory Committee is supposed to be helped by staff. You know, we're charged with putting on these meetings, and staff assists us. I don't really feel like we're being very well supported here. You know, and also I noticed that somebody there in the room with you has the job of coordination. I think that's in his project title. I don't feel very well coordinated about this. I feel like it's been sprung as an ambush.
Mr. Chair, how can we support you this evening?
We are going to go with my agenda. And there's not going to be any other attempts, essentially, to disempower this committee. You know, it's kind of been an onslaught. I'll just tell the folks out there. I mean, you know, we had just a number, what was it, just 2 weeks ago or so, Darren? You know, this appeared on the website, the DSAC website. And I think we had some words over that. So, you know, I guess what I would like more, you know, I want to go ahead with the meeting essentially the way I'd planned it. But I also want to have some sort of reckoning here about what is going on with the county in terms of its support. I mean, I've asked you in emails and you have not responded. What is going on at the county?
Are you directing that question to me, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Darren. Yes, I am.
Yeah, well, we're taking care of business. We have a community development department, and we're running the department to the best of our ability, including, you know, trying to get this committee stood back up and taking care of business.
All right. Is there anything else?
Well, I'm not sure what you're asking for, sir.
I see Marcus raised. Well, let's see. Hang on a second. I'm trying to. So we need to officially begin this meeting. So I would like to go ahead and announce that we're beginning this meeting. I would like to state right now that I do insist that the video for what has happened before be preserved, because I think there's kind of some very important discussions that are going on here. So I'm calling the meeting into session. So Mark, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. Just a couple of things. One is that the recording started some 10 minutes ago or so, so that record should be preserved. And since I haven't been privy to any of the email communications between you and the department, I guess I'm wondering if it's appropriate for me to ask Darren whether or not Ken's characterization of his communications to you and your non-response, is that an accurate characterization of what has transpired over that language that was posted on the website?
No, we had an email exchange. So I've responded to Mr. Eklund.
Okay, so what how Ken is characterizing it is not accurate?
I believe that's correct, Mark.
So we have two, I think, discussions going on. One is about this page, this language that appeared on the website, 2 weeks ago, something like that. Darren and I alerted Darren actually to this situation, and so we had an exchange about it. And as a matter of fact, we've on behalf of DSAC, I've put in a public records request to try to figure out how exactly this language ended up on the website and also in the memo sent to DSAC members. Nothing has happened on that request for public records. What I was talking about earlier was about the Board of Commissioners in a public setting making a determination about what is essentially saying that they wanted the Community Development Department to start setting the agenda and in otherwise controlling this meeting. And so that's the part where I did not receive any communication. So I saw a preliminary an agenda that I would characterize as a preliminary agenda appear on the website. I sent in my agenda, as usual, over a week before this meeting, which is the timeline that Daniel's indicated that that's necessary. The agenda which is published on the website is supposed to change at that point in time, to my agenda, to the DSAC's agenda, I should say. And then I sent another email and got no response. I sent another email alerting Daniel and Darren that the agenda had not been updated and got no response. So that's
Okay, well,
those.
I'm sorry. I was confused about the non-response portion of the discussion here. And so I guess my question would be still the same to Darren and Daniel. What did Ken's emails to you regarding the agenda go unresponded?
I believe that's correct.
Was there a reason for that?
One service from Rosie. Please select your language without proceeding to control.
Mute yourself, Joel.
Sorry, we're getting some feedback.
That's Joel.
Hey, Joel.
So was there a reason for not responding to Ken regarding the agenda? I'm just curious.
Yeah, it was not clear whether we had already had an agenda from staff. We were just relying on that staff agenda in the packet. I think Daniel had also asked for some other materials from the chair. We wanted to make sure that we had the right kind of full packet. So I think we probably were waiting on each other for some materials ahead of this meeting.
So if we hang on a second, I would like to call up that email because I believe I talked in it about this replaces the preliminary agenda. So give me a moment to find it. You might be able to find it quicker than I can.
And they're broadcasting.
Yeah, so I have it here. So, well, of course, the entire committee got it. Where I said I put together the agenda for upcoming meeting on Wednesday, October 25th. That's attached as a PDF. Daniel, please update the web record for this meeting with this agenda. And then some notes about it. The preliminary agenda had introducing Christopher Jacobs of EDO on it, but I don't have any information about what that might be, so I've left it off this agenda. And then there's some other notes or whatever. And then on October 23rd, I said, just alerting you that the official calendar information for the upcoming DSAC meeting still lists the preliminary agenda prepared by staff. This agenda has been replaced by the one in my 1017 email below, prepared by DSAC as per county code. Please correct this to avoid confusion with the public. Thanks, Ken.
So, Mr. Chair, are you prepared to move forward with that agenda?
I am. If the committee is all done essentially with the point that we find ourselves at right now. Well, I think we need to take a little roll call here too. We're off to a very discombobulated start. So members in attendance, we have me, Ken Eklund, we have Marge Pop, we have Mark Yeager, we have Debbie Guile, and we have Chuck Gilbert. So thank you all for attending.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Chuck Gilbert. I'm sorry to interrupt. My video's down, so you don't have to look at my unphotogenic face this evening.
All right. Thank you, Chuck. Oh, and also Joel Geyer is here. We saw him appear earlier, so I don't see his name on here. I hope he's still, I see a phone. I hope that's him. So for the record, so we do indeed have a quorum. I guess I'm not quite I have to sit with this a moment, Darren and Daniel. Because I'm a bit lost as to what to do here. I mean, I don't really know how to handle this support, this kind of non-support. I mean, this is pretty adversarial. I mean, I'll just sum it up that way. So I have to, I guess, get some assurance here before we move on that we are indeed going to be able to count on the county to actually stand by its own law, in things having to do with the landfill, not just this committee, but in other matters. Because it just seems like when the landfill comes forward, some really what I'll characterize as extreme things happen. And this is just one of them. And when I was talking before about this, I just want to run through this. I'm sorry. I have to share my screen, don't I? So let's talk a bit about this. Maybe I'm jumping ahead in my own agenda, but I think it's really relevant to talk about this at the moment. because, you know, when this appeared, the assumption that people made is that this was done with the knowledge and support of the county. And you know, I'll just recall, Darren, that I sent you the notification that this had happened. You know, if the county had essentially some mechanism in place where it would catch, you know, what you've characterized as a miscommunication, then that would be one thing. But it seems to me it was just kind of like a trial balloon where the county floated it out to see if people would just accept it.
No, I don't think that's true, Mr. Chair. This was just a miscommunication at the staff level. I was not aware of this until you raised it to my attention, and I appreciate you flagging it. I think this was something that staff was trying to do to help us be more expedited with comments. It was a mistake, and we've corrected it since. And I let you know that immediately when you flagged it for my attention. So thank you for that. I think we've answered that for you, and I'm answering it for the committee. This was a mistake that it was posted on the website. Of course, we accept written comments. There has been no change in policy for DSAC or for Benton County.
Yes, but you're not addressing essentially the point which I just made, which is, you know, do I have faith that the error correction protocol at the county would have caught this and corrected it? You know, based upon what has just happened to me now, no, I do not. You know, and so I guess as I expressed in an email to you, I just wanted to know whether we're just going to play kind of whack-a-mole from here on out, where the county tries things like this, written comments are not accepted, or no, we control the agenda. I mean, is this just going to be the way it's going to be from here on out? You know, I guess I'll just say that's a rhetorical question. Mark, you have your hand up. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. So I have a couple of things I'd like to do, and the first would be just to make sure that we're clear about what we're doing here. I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda that was presented by Chair Eklund as the operating agenda for this meeting. I'd like to hear a second on that. That would be great.
I can second that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that you can. One of the other committee members.
I'll second it. I'll second it.
Actually, it's in the bylaws, but let's have Marge as the second. So is there any discussion? Mark, can you say that? Can you say that motion again for us?
Sure. I'd like to move that we adopt the agenda that was presented by the chair as the operating agenda for this meeting, so that there's no confusion relative to which agenda we're working from, the one proposed by the staff or the one proposed by the chair. So I'm making a motion to adopt the agenda that was presented and prepared by the chair of the committee.
Thank you.
I second that.
Yeah, so Chuck, you've got your hand up.
My apology, I come in a little late. I had some technical questions. If I may regress just for a moment, please.
Sure.
SWAC has been decommissioned, so the SWAC bylaws are moot now, if I understand that correct, which is fine. And what we're trying to establish now is that the bylaws for DSAC still intact.
Actually, Chuck, what we're trying to establish here is Benton County staff asserted that their agenda was the one which was that this meeting was going to run by. So they had prepared an agenda. But
Well, my position is kind
Yeah.
of a point of order, if you'd be so kind.
yeah, sure.
What I'm trying to establish is one can't really make a motion until you're sure that the bylaws are intact. That's my first question. The SWAC, I guess we should ask county, the SWAC commission is moot now, but the DSAC stands. And if I understand correctly, the bylaws are still stand. They have not been revised, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Gilbert. The Disposal Site Advisory Committee is still intact and its bylaws are still fully operational.
Thank you, sir. That gives us a baseline to move from first then, okay? So, so again, now we're to a point of, there was 2 agendas went out. There weren't that much different, just a few points, but I realized, we've been apart for quite a while and SWAC is on fallen, but we do have DSAC and there is still solid waste management that has to be looked at and so forth. That hasn't gone away yet, even though we're in a more of a different climate too with conservation and stuff. So again, I'll throw it back to you. I just wanted to get the boat righted a little bit where we're at. I realize it's been a long time here, so you have to educate me again.
Sure. So is there any other discussion about the motion? Shall we vote on it then? So the motion is essentially to use the agenda for this meeting, that essentially the committee supports using the agenda which the chair prepared for this meeting going forward. So all in favor, say yes.
Aye.
Okay. So Chuck or Debbie?
I'll abstain because what I don't understand, excuse, is for clarity, what's the difference between one or the other? They were pretty close to the same except for the guest speaker. Was there some technicality in one that you were looking at that I didn't see?
They're actually quite a bit different. So, the one which was put forward by the preliminary agenda was it was concerned with it was concerned with us reviewing the bylaws. I mean, reviewing the minutes from past meetings. Whereas, I mean, I can show you actually what the agenda. I'm lost in Windows here. Sorry, everyone. So this one, we have the call to order. There's regrounding the committee. So since we haven't met for a session, we want to go over recent events going forward with that. Then we want to hear from the community. Then we want to look at the website language. There's a break. We talk about the community concerns annual report. So that's common to both the agendas. We want to establish a regular meeting time. We took a poll about that. Then we kind of doing the wrap up. There is summarizing items to be included in the minutes. There we are looking at a few of the minutes which are in our backlog. There are member requests, and then the conclusion. So that's kind of the difference between the two, Chuck, I guess, in a nutshell. I can point out for you the ones which are not in in the other agenda. But basically, they're just addressing minutes and they're looking at the 2021 community concerns annual report. That's the only, and they have community comments. Those are the only things that are in common. Yeah, so Joel?
Yeah, hi. I've just made it through customs. I wanted to, I support the motion. I understand it was for this one. I didn't know if my vote registered. And also just to say that the phone link, the Zoom phone link, I put this in the chat. It's not working. It's requesting both the passcode and a password, which we didn't receive. So I won't probably be able to participate in most of this meeting because that's not working unless somebody can tell me what the password is.
That's a question for staff, I guess.
Yeah, I've double checked the emails.
Yeah,
I've got
Mr. Chair, if I can jump in,
Yes.
the point of the motion was made, it was seconded, we had discussion, and you called for the question, and now we're having further discussion. It seems like that should be cut off. Let's go ahead and finish the vote and move on with the agenda, if you don't mind.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Yeager. I've been rattled. So I just have to say I'm trying to collect my thoughts, but so I'm sorry.
So at this point, I think you need to call to see if there's any votes. We heard Chuck was abstaining. We haven't heard from Debbie or Brent.
Right. So,
Mr. Chair, would it be helpful if we restate the motion that we've captured, just to make sure we captured the correct motion? I'll ask if it's okay with you. I'd like to ask Linda Ray to read it back and make sure we captured it correctly so that you'll know what they're voting on.
How about we blow your brains out? Daniel, you're a wooger.
hey, Patricia.
I think I
maintain
don't mean
decorum.
to interrupt, but inappropriate language from the community is not appropriate, especially insinuating any violence to staff. I would appreciate if any language like that ceases at this point. It is absolutely not appropriate to continue with that. Thank you.
I agree with Daniel. Okay.
I support Dan.
So I'm receiving via chat from Debbie Guile. So I'm sorry I'm missing out on the chat. Too many things kind of going on at once. I see she is unable to be present by audio or video, but she can vote. She can vote by text, and Brent has also voted from text by chat. And so there are 3 abstaining votes. And then there are 4 yes votes, and let's see, Ian is not here unless he's on the phone. So the motion does not carry. So we are going to go forward, however, with that agenda.
Well, although I think the motion does carry.
No, 4 votes.
I think we need 5. I think the motion needs 5. Is that correct? I'll ask staff.
Mr. Chair, I apologize. I think we might have lost count of the vote. Obviously, the comments from the public were disturbing to our staff. And I just have to say, if we're not able to conduct the meeting in a manner that's safe and respectful with a modicum of decorum, I'll have to end the meeting. So I apologize for that. I think we're probably both a little bit rattled at the moment. Could you just go back through the vote count again, please?
Yes, so this is what I understand the vote to be. With it's myself saying aye, Mark Yeager saying aye, Joel Geyer saying aye, and Marge Pop saying aye. And then Chuck Gilbert has abstained. Debbie Guile has abstained. Brent has abstained, and Ian is not here. So is it looking for a majority of those who are present, or a majority of? It is. In that case, the motion does indeed carry with 4 votes.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay. So is that clear for the? Did I state that clearly for the minutes taker?
Yes, that's what I captured.
Okay. Regarding the regarding having unsuitable language here, I totally agree with you that we want to maintain decorum. And so I urge members of the public not to disrupt these proceedings. And especially not with hate-filled language. I mean, that should not be tolerated. So as I understand it, the person who has called this meeting has the ability to mute or kick people from the meeting. And, you know, I think that should be invoked in situations where it is warranted. So why don't we go ahead with the agenda? I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, I've done the call to order. Just want to remind people the Zoom meeting protocol. Non-members, please turn your camera and microphone off. I mean, everyone seems to be doing that. If you wish to speak, when it's time to use raise hand on Zoom or turn camera on, you can have and wait for the chair to call on you, please. I have the committee members. I've just listed the names here. I'll point out that the committee currently has 3 vacancies, and we will use the agenda as prepared by the chair of the committee. So the second part, obviously we're off our schedule, but the first part of it, you'll see in the text here, I'm just talking about we're reconvening in an environment that is much different in terms of staff support. So I think we've already had a bunch of that discussion. And so I wanted to go through some other recent events. Joel, I see you've got your hand up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if we can get a password so I can do the rest of this by phone, because I won't be able to stay on video here. The problem is that what came out was the standard Zoom thing, which had a Zoom meeting code and a Zoom passcode. But then when I call in on Zoom using those 2, then it's also requesting a password, which is something new that I haven't run into before. So if anyone knows what that is, then I would appreciate that. Otherwise, I'll probably be missing most of the rest of this.
So refer that to staff.
Yeah, Mr. Geyer, I'm not sure what's going on with your Zoom account. Let me see if I can figure out what that is. I don't know that.
Yeah, it's not my own account. It's I don't have a Zoom account, so I'm just calling in on the number that came out from the county, or from Zoom actually directly using the link from the county.
Let me see if I can find that, and I'll put it in the chat. Can you see the chat?
Joel, you
Yeah.
got a pencil?
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat. I don't see anything in the chat right now except from, oh, wait, up to the top. No, the meeting chat is not showing anything from you, Darren.
No, it's not in the chat yet. I just want to make sure that you can see
Okay,
it.
no, yeah, I'm looking at the chat.
Okay. This will take me a minute, Mr. Chair, if you want to keep going.
Yeah, so we'll circle back to you, Joel. I hope that that works out.
Yeah, I'll probably just leave it once I see it because I've got to run. But
So so first I should just I think I've put up some items here on the as things which I wanted to call out, in essentially in these in the agenda. We can go over those briefly, but I've been doing an awful lot of talking, and so if other members of the committee would like to chime in here, I think it would give me a chance to regroup a bit. So I'll just go through things briefly then. So I just wanted to point out that in the Statesman Journal, there is an article that appeared, I think just a few days ago, which essentially talks about an EPA probe of the landfill, and that there's a potential safety concern, the EPA says, at the landfill. So I would like to propose, I guess, a course of action for the committee. The article says that this report is actually not available to the public, but you can get it through a Freedom of Information Act request. So I was willing to entertain some sort of motion about actually getting that done, if that seemed good to the committee. To me, it seems like the sort of information that the Disposal Site Advisory Committee should have.
Chair Eklund?
Yes, Chuck.
Yes. I think we should ask Coffin Butte first, should we not? I mean, we should be cooperating with Coffin Butte. I see so much information that was in our last meetings and stuff. So I know EPA created this report, but there was some question of the validity of it with Republic. And I think we want to be inclusive with the Republic so they can defend it, or if they see insight into it too, before we just make a motion on accepting it.
Right. So, yeah, I think that's a good point, Chuck. But the motion is just to get the report. It's not to say anything about it. So, I mean, part of the reason that I'm kind of proposing that is so that we don't have to rely on secondhand information like this article. So, I'd like to get the primary information, which is indeed the report itself. And then we can use that to frame questions, we could get a lot of information. I'm sure that E. McNabb has a lot of information about, how this report was generated and kind of what happened. But he's not here, so we can't, refer to that. But I'm just talking about getting the report in-house. Yeah, Marge.
I just want to refer you to Debbie Giles' comment, which says that she agrees that we should get that report from the EPA, and I do too.
Okay. So, go ahead, Joel.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think it's something that I think Daniel put together this really nice document library. This could be something that could just go right on the Benton County website as part of the documents. It's really a regulatory document. And I'm sure it should be pretty easy to get from the EPA.
Well, it's from what I understand, it's not easy for us to get. So it is a Freedom of Information Act. And so I guess what I'm looking for is some sort of motion. I don't know if we need a motion for this exactly. Mark.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I wonder if anyone has contacted the reporter. Does the reporter have a copy of this report? When you read through it, it looks as if he's gathering some information. And if the Statesman Journal already has a copy of it, why don't we just ask them to forward that to us so it can be put into the record for the county?
Well, that would be a way to go also. So, Mark, I want to pose a question to you just kind of beside this. I'm wondering if, as vice chair, you would be willing to take over running this meeting. I'm sorry, I'm a bit out of sorts, and so I'm wondering if you would be willing to do that.
Sure, Ken, I'm happy to do that. I don't have the agenda in front of me, so it's going to be a little hard for me you'll have to help me with walking through the agenda. But happy to do that. And I don't have access to video at the moment. So for the folks who are not members of the committee who don't know me, I apologize for not having video on at the moment. So
yeah, I'm sorry to put that upon you, but thanks very much.
Yep, happy to do it. So what's next on the agenda? So I think, I don't know that we need a motion. It seems like there's a consensus to get this report and get it to the committee and get it into the hands of the county. Any objections to that? Okay, well, let's go ahead and go on to the next item on the agenda, whatever that may be.
We can quickly go through these things that I had noted. So I just wanted to, a new bit of information here. An outfit called Carbon Mapper that I've been interested in for a while has done its first flyovers of Coffin Butte landfill. So what I'm showing here, it's you can see there's Coffin Butte landfill, and that is a visualization in real time of the methane plume essentially going being emitted by the landfill there. You can see on this page that the amount of the emission, I think, is not yet quantified, the various plumes that they're tracking. So this image is just taken from their website. The stars, I added, the stars mark people's houses, essentially. So there's somebody's residence underneath each of those stars.
Okay, so, any questions from the committee members about this, that map, that image?
What I see is if that is true image, methane is fuel, and it's usually is not being reclaimed maybe they need again, I don't know the validity of the report, but if it is true, methane is energy and Republic's been recapturing, maybe they need to look at their company down there that's recapturing, maybe they can recapture at a greater rate. It's a, possible solution if the photograph is true.
Yeah, and Chuck, I don't have any information about this image as well. But this seems to me to be sort of supportive of the EPA report that was suggesting or documenting that there were many leaks that were occurring at the landfill outside of and beyond the methane capture system that Valley Landfills has implemented. So I don't know if that's coming from, I read the article, so I don't know if that's coming from holes in the tarps or whether it's coming from leaks in the pipes. Yeah, it's you're right that there would be some value to attempting to try to capture it. But this may be a visual image of the information that was reported in the EPA report.
Thank you.
All right, moving on.
I quickly wanted to just say that we have 3 requests for public documents currently going on with county staff. Daniel sent us an email a couple of weeks ago, which I did not accept on behalf of the committee. And I submitted a request for public documents at that time. I wanted essentially all of the emails that have to do with setting essentially behind the change in county attitude towards DSAC and also SWAC. So as you know, SWAC was dissolved, and DSAC, we've now had these incidents. And so I requested on behalf of this committee the documents that will just show us exactly kind of who is behind these, and kind of what the thinking is that has kind of led us to this moment. So that's one set of documents. When the announcement saying that, well, this announcement, written comments are not accepted. When that announcement came out, I also issued on behalf of the committee request for public documents. I mean, you heard Darren characterize it as a miscommunication. I would just like to know it's a miscommunication from who to who, and how exactly that miscommunication ended up, on the website, essentially about, about this committee. And then the third set of documents that I've requested is the documents which are necessary for us to put together the 2021 Community Concerns Annual Report. And so those are the documents about the expressions of community concern. There's quite a lot of them because that was the year of the, of the application to expand the landfill. So there are probably comments from over 300 people that need to be processed for that. And so we need the official records. And I put in a request for those, and that also has not been, none of these have been met. So.
And Ken, I have a question there. Have you also requested the documents for calendar year 2022?
I have not done that yet.
Well, here we are almost to the end of 2023. It seems like we should be seeing those records as well. So I don't know if we need to do a formal request in a written manner, or if we can get some acknowledgement from the county that this request is sufficient and valid, and we could get the record of complaints for calendar year 2022 as well. So if Daniel or Darren are still on, I don't see you guys there. I see Linda. I don't know if Daniel and Darren have left. I don't see them here anymore. Linda, are they still around? They are, okay. So maybe you could communicate that. We'd like the complaint record for the calendar year of 2022 as well.
In addition to his other three requests, public.
Okay, thank you, Mark. I apologize for needing to step away. You know, after the threats of violence on the call, our staff is not doing very well, and it's pretty difficult to take when people choose to act in that way. So just need to take a minute to make sure we're safe and okay, and I apologize for needing to step away from the meeting for a minute.
No problem, no worries.
Mr. Director, you do not need to apologize. You're a shield for your staff, and I know it, you do good, but if there's really concern, I would appreciate it shutting down too, and everybody can get their composure and we can get back with it if need be.
Well, I think we're probably good proceeding at this point. It looks like Daniel has stepped away. And any objection on behalf of the county staff for continuing the meeting?
Mark, I'm willing to stay here. I'm willing to stay here and support the meeting for sure. Linda is willing to stay here and take notes. I would just say if there's any other unprofessionalism or threats or disrespect, I will need to shut the meeting down, acting as the director of the department. So thank you for understanding. Okay.
Yep, understood. Fair enough.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep. So then getting back, I just want to make sure that we've got a head nod on getting the 2022 complaint record delivered to the committee as well. I understand that Ken has asked for the record from 2021. It has been a very long time since we've met. So
Right.
Can we get the record for 2022 as well?
I think those are, so I don't want to speak for the rest of the staff. I think those are easy enough to produce, and we'll commit to do that. As long as Linda captured the earlier items, we'll do our best.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
And then Ken, item D that you have on the agenda here.
I just wondered whether the disposal site advisory committee should formally recommend reassembling the solid waste advisory council. I just note that in county code, that the solid waste advisory council is supposed to meet 4 times a year. And unless it actually is reassembled and has that meeting, it's going to miss that target. It's going to be out of compliance for 2023. The county code also says that the Board of Commissioners shall create a solid waste advisory council. And so that also seems to be guidance here. And so I don't have much more thought than that formed, and so that was my thought for putting this on the here on the agenda.
Okay, well, any thoughts or comments from other members of the committee? Chuck has a thumbs up. Debbie, Marge, Brent, anyone else?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for your comments. Again, I know we're over a bridge process, and there is also in balance and harmony here is the other committee that's been formed. And I'm assuming that while they mature, they will incorporate some of the SWAC stuff into the materials management of this. That doesn't negate SWAC completely. I just don't know verbatim what they're encompassing there. And what I suggest is maybe we should wait for a little while and see what they're incorporating. And then if there's important stuff that was in SWAC, a function, there's a phrase in there, but not limited to, we could bring them back into DSAC if you would be so kind.
Other committee comments? So hearing none, I would just say that it is clear, and it has been documented publicly, that the action that the county commissioners took to dissolve the Solid Waste Advisory Council was contrary to the Benton County Code. I don't have the code right in front of me, but I communicated very strongly about that when it happened. And the county commissioners are acting in non-compliance with their own code, and apparently feel comfortable in doing that. So I'm not sure that there's much that the Disposal Site Advisory Committee can do at this point. We can register our concern about it. But other than that, the county commissioners are acting contrary to their own code and seem totally comfortable with that. So at this point, I think that's where we are.
I also think that we should register our displeasure with that in some kind of formal way from DSAC. Maybe make a motion, and I just think it should be noted. I think that SWAC should note that and DSAC should note that SWAC has been disbanded, and that this is disturbing to some members.
So do you want to make a motion, Marge?
Okay, I will. I'll make a motion that we and what are the formal? Could you state that formally, Mark? In how that would actually happen? Could you how that would formally happen? I'll make a motion that we formally note that some members of DSAC are disturbed by the county's summarily disbanding SWAC, and especially since there wasn't any discussion at all about it. I don't know if that's part of a motion, but oh, thank you.
Well, yeah, I don't know, as SWAC, as DSAC, it seems to me like we could just simply somebody could make a motion to formally notify the commissioners of the DSAC's dissatisfaction with the commissioners' action to dissolve SWAC. And we note that it's contrary to Benton County Code, and we're concerned about that.
Yeah, very good. That's a good wording.
The meeting's being recorded if someone wants to, this can be something that we can do at a later point. I'm curious about other members of the committee and their concerns about it. Chuck has mentioned his thoughts about it, and I'm wondering about others, Debbie and Brent and whoever else, Joel, whoever else we have on the committee or on the meeting tonight. So feel free to speak up, and
I would ask, I'm concerned why the reasons is, so we know that really the purpose of it, and it's probably a valid purpose, because they've we've gone under the materials management. So there's amorphous here with some of the stuff going to be under the materials management that was under SWAC, and some may not. So if they could just clarify it a little bit so we know, reassured that some of the SWAC protocols were incorporated with this, and then we can digest what's happened. Maybe we could absorb them into DSAC just for balance, if you would.
Yeah, so Debbie has weighed in through the chat to say that she agrees that we should formally state our concern about the Board of Commissioners dissolving SWAC without any discussion. I'm guessing the staff would probably push back on the without any discussion, because it was discussed in the August 15th Board of Commissioners meeting. However, the rationale was not articulated. And I'd like to point out that SWAC has more of a role than just simply dealing with solid waste issues. There is a formal role also in code that requires any conditional use permit be reviewed by SWAC. And I don't quite understand how, although it's interesting to me that the commissioners decided to dissolve SWAC without dealing with that issue. So the Benton County Code does in fact require SWAC to review and opine on any potential future conditional use permit that would be required for expanding the landfill. Now that role is no longer covered. So I do have concerns there. But it seems to me like this discussion at this point is probably adequate for registering our complaint. And if we need to, maybe we can formalize this into just, I don't know exactly what the process would be for communicating with the Board of Commissioners. The chair could send a letter to the Board of Commissioners following this meeting to say that we discussed this and we're expressing our dissatisfaction with the commissioner's action, if there's no objection from other members of the committee.
If you're asking, this is Brent, if you're asking about our thoughts on this, I guess mine isn't necessarily an objection to them dissolving SWAC, but it's more of the, I think was touched on earlier, the question of functions that SWAC had, do they roll into the roles and responsibilities of the DSAC?
Okay, well, that we could pose that as part of the question.
Mr. Chair, I may be able to provide a little bit of context for this if it's helpful.
Sure, thanks, Darren. Go ahead.
So I believe that
I'm not the chair. I'm facilitating the meeting, but as vice chair.
Mr. Vice Chair, thank you for facilitating. My understanding of the board's action was twofold. One was to separate the responsibilities of the Disposal Site Advisory Committee from the Solid Waste Advisory Council in order to give an opportunity to focus on two very different kind of parts of solid waste and sustainable materials. So obviously the DSAC has some very specific statutory responsibilities that you all fill in the role that you're playing tonight. The board also authorized the creation of an ad hoc committee that will serve essentially as an interim solid waste advisory committee on the bigger picture issues surrounding solid waste and sustainable materials management for as long as the sustainable materials management planning process is underway. And there's some rationale for that. I think mainly the board is looking for some more regional advice from the ad hoc committee. So taking into account information from surrounding counties and those counties that contribute to the solid waste stream in Western Oregon. And then also to ask that ad hoc committee to take on those roles of the Solid Waste Advisory Council during this interim period while we put the Sustainable Materials Management Plan in place. Then at the end of the Sustainable Materials Management Plan process, part of that process would be to make some recommendations to the Board of Commissioners about long-term governance around these really complex and important issues. And so I think, at some point in the next couple of years, we'll be having a longer term discussion about how many and what type of bodies and what the membership should be to address those issues. So that's my understanding of the board's decision. I think there was some discussion about that in that August 15th meeting.
Thank you, Darren. So I attended the August 15th meeting, and there was very limited discussion with regard to all of the activities that SWAC. There was discussion about creating an ad hoc committee, but there was very little discussion about, for example, the example I just raised, which was there was no discussion about the ad hoc committee serving in the review role for reviewing conditional use permits. And again, that is also a code requirement that's in Benton County Code. And so it certainly would be a little bit odd if an ad hoc committee would then somehow jump into the land use decision-making process in Benton County. It's a little unclear to me what the commissioner's intention was, and there are no members of either SWAC or DSAC who have been invited to participate in the ad hoc committee. Is that correct?
The ad hoc committee has not been established yet, so that's still an open question. I don't have that list in front of me at the moment, so I can't speak to the specifics, but I know the intent was for sitting DSAC members to be considered as part of that ad hoc committee once it is stood up.
Okay, well, it was my understanding that there's already been some sort of informal meeting of the ad hoc committee. I know that there's been a couple of planning commissioners that have been appointed to the ad hoc committee. Or maybe there hasn't been a formal appointment. Maybe they've just been identified. I don't know. I guess I would encourage the commissioners then to have some members from DSAC as part of the ad hoc committee. The DSAC folks have been the folks who have been most involved with the landfill and solid waste management issues in Benton County for some period of time.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. There have been no meetings at the ad hoc committee. There is no ad hoc committee yet. The planning commission, I think, took the proactive step of recommending a couple of members to serve, if that is the wish of the board. But that's that's a recommendation from the planning commission. I think this body could do something similar if if you're prepared to do that now or maybe at your next meeting.
What's the timing, Darren, for the appointment of the ad hoc committee?
Well, that appointment has not been scheduled, but I believe we have been eyeing November 28th, so after the Thanksgiving holiday.
Okay, and I'm unclear as to when the next meeting of DSAC is.
Thank you. It's before then. And I'm forgetting the dates off the top of my head. I think we're scheduled to meet November 15th. I think is the next DSAC meeting.
16th.
16th. Thank
Okay.
you, Debbie. It's that Wednesday before the Thanksgiving week.
Okay, well,
Sorry.
appointing someone from DSAC onto the ad hoc committee, I don't think that was part of our original agenda for this evening. And we're certainly sidetracked well enough this evening that we should probably move on. The question to you, Darren, would be if the committee puts this on their agenda for November 16th, would we still have an opportunity then to make it onto the ad hoc committee?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, thank you for that discussion. It seems to me like we have a consensus I'm not, is everyone seeing the language that I think this is Ken who must be typing up here with regard to notifying the Board of Commissioners about DSAC's concern about the dissolution of the Solid Waste Advisory Council, and wondering if it's okay or if we can get head nods or thumbs up with the proposed language there that would express our concerns to the Board of Commissioners. So I see Marge with a thumbs up. Seems like that's
Thumbs
going
up
to be
for
the
me.
easiest way to go, huh?
I just said thumbs up for me.
So we got Marge and Ken. Chuck says thumbs up.
Debbie
Like we
Giles
lost
says
people.
okay.
Debbie says okay. Brent,
Yeah, mine's more of a question, not a concern. You know, I would say I'm concerned about that. I think it's just mine more of a question of clarification. So I'm not going to. I'm 50% on language there.
okay, well, maybe we can wordsmith it a little bit to try to deal with that, but if everyone's okay, I'd like to move on with the meeting. And then we could put on our agenda for November 16th, discussion of appointment of a member or members from DSAC onto the ad hoc committee, so we can have some connection there. Everyone's okay with that for having a discussion on November 16th about this?
Yes.
All right, hearing no objections, we're going to move ahead. All right, what's next on the agenda here?
What is next? We hear from those long-suffering community members.
Oh, yes, community members. Appreciate your patience in this this meeting so far. And if you can raise your hand if you'd like to address the Disposal Site Advisory Committee at this time, I would appreciate it. I see one hand so far. And go ahead, Robert. I'm calling on Robert Orton. If you can turn your camera on, Robert, when you speak, you're still muted. And if you can turn your camera on as well, that would be great.
And my camera is on.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I have a statement I would like to share with the committee. My name is Robert Orton. I'm a heavy equipment mechanic at the landfill. The heavy equipment mechanics are represented by the International Operating Engineers, Local 701, out of Valley Landfills, a subsidiary of Republic Services. As a heavy equipment mechanic at the landfill, I am well aware of Republic Services identifies itself as a company who is success driven by its employees, companies, ethics, and compliance statements. And it states itself as a committed steward of the environment. The values of the organization are to protect the livelihood of our colleagues and the communities in which Republic Services does business. I and the union are writing you to ensure that you are aware of the situation occurring at Valley Landfills, as their actions are antithetical to their stated values. In addition to, the employees at Valley Landfills, particularly us mechanics, we work in disastrous conditions. We have outdated PPE, broken or missing decontamination areas, and a management that disregard the company's own safety policies. Several complaints have been put forth to both OSHA and DEQ and the EPA. Our problem with addressing this issue, and it's not just the methane, there's a number of health and safety issues taking place up there I don't know that the committee is aware of. You reach out to OSHA to report your concerns. OSHA refers you to DEQ. DEQ refers you to the EPA. You get a hold of the EPA, it refers you back to OSHA. So getting anything addressed up there it's been essentially impossible for the people up there that are aware of what's going on and would like to get this out into the community and get some of these things addressed. And government bureaucracy has, up to this point, prevented that. And so these extremely hazardous conditions, both the EPA and some other ones that I'll inform you of here, have gone unaddressed. And these extremely hazardous conditions have gone on unchecked. Republic Services has a history, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do this with the EPA issue, of paying exorbitant amounts of money to settle claims and then going on as though nothing happened. The mechanics, we voted to go union so that we could get some direct on-site support to address these issues, because we haven't had any luck addressing them through management, through the general manager, Brett Davis, through the HR manager, Tiffany Bretz, and through the operations manager, Jeremy Stone, at the landfill itself, who auspiciously is in charge of taking care of things like hazardous conditions. We've gotten nowhere in that. The union has videos and pictures from the landfill taken from just the past few weeks that we would be happy to share with the committee. USB thumb drives of the violations have already been mailed to the County Board of Commissioners. The majority of these videos have been submitted anonymously to the union from operators who are still inside the dump working. Us mechanics are on strike right now, trying to get these safety conditions addressed. Except for a few pictures that have been taken outside the dump, where you can see plumes of not only dust, other contaminants, but also asbestos leaving the area. We would be happy to provide these. Again, you'll see truckloads of bags of cancerous silicate microfibers being dumped from the back of trucks with no wet down procedures to prevent cloud flare-ups. Black smoke rising from burner ash. And when you're working on these equipment, the equipment's covered in everything from human feces to medical waste, animal carcasses, just about everything you can imagine. And all of these are health concerns. All of these are part and parcel of what's going on at Valley landfills right now. And a prime example of that is what's going on with the EPA and the methane gas emissions. It's been very trying to try and address this. And looking at the community and the money that Republic Services puts into the county, both for paying for the treatment of the water leachate, and what the county's getting from the agreement recently signed with Republic Services as a trash hauler, and you really begin to question the dedication of not only the state agencies responsible for addressing this, but the dedication of the county in directly addressing some of these things. On top of the personal safety issues, you know, the methane gas, I mean, that alone, and operations has disregarded safety concerns on top of the dump. So they actually have us up there working on equipment, cutting with torches, using welders, you know, all things that could potentially ignite that methane. And they're having us do it without a fire watch, without the company policies and procedures to prevent a fire, let alone an explosion in place.
Robert, this is Mark. I really appreciate your comments here. I don't know if you, first of all, I'm not sure exactly what role DSAC can play in this process, with the exception of potentially trying to bring these issues to the, particularly the health and safety issues, to the attention of the Department of Environmental Quality. In terms of a formal role, we have no role in communicating directly with Valley Landfills or Republic Services, but I do think it's extremely important that these issues that you're raising are put into the public record and documented. So I'm wondering if you have anything in writing that you could submit to us in support of your testimony here?
Yes, sir. I believe a statement was emailed into the committee from Jacob Stallings, who is the attorney with Local 701 operating engineers who represent us. And that was sent to the committee earlier this afternoon, I believe. And
Okay, yeah, I haven't seen that.
Oh,
Go
excuse me.
ahead.
I understand the committee, what I'm trying to do is share this with people that might be concerned and bring to the forefront the fact that you're not looking at what you're seeing now is the article that came out from the EPA. There is so much more going on there in terms of safety and what's going on with the environment. So no, I understand the committee is limited if at all empowered to do anything. My goal here is to bring some of these concerns to the public and get them out because they just haven't been up to this point.
Yes, and I think that that's why we're here. I think that's one of the roles that the Disposal Site Advisory Committee has, is to bring these issues to the fore so that so people can be aware of some of these things. So I have not seen the email or the reference that you just mentioned from your attorney, but I don't know if that went to the committee or whether it went to the county. But any members of the committee, have you received any correspondence today from this attorney? Yeah, so I think, Robert, the best thing to do would be able to see if you could get that communication directly to the chair, Ken Eklund, and then that can be forwarded to the committee. And really appreciate you bringing this to our attention, because that's why we're here. And there may be something that the committee can do in terms of as a formal statutorily formed committee, we might be able to have some influence in getting the information moved up in consideration by DEQ.
Outstanding. And I appreciate that. And I will seek to get this information to Mr. Eklund. Just one other thing I'd like to mention regarding the landfill. The landfill is rated, and what we're capable of handling is 2,400 tons a day. We are currently receiving 5,000 to 6,000 tons of garbage a day. It is the way it's operating and the way they're handling it. It's impossible to safely work through 6,000 tons a day up there. And I think that's the key and the basis for a lot of these problems. And with that, I will thank you for your time. And Mr. Eklund, I will reach out to you and see about providing this information to you. Once again, I appreciate the opportunity to talk, and thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Orton. And I would appreciate it if the information that you just raised there at the end, the 2,400 tons per day rating versus the 5,000 or 6,000, if you could get that information to Mr. Eklund as well. And I have not heard of that daily rating before. So I think the committee might be interested in understanding where that rating comes from and how the landfill is operating outside of that limit.
Certainly, and perhaps some of this would be done better face to face with the committee. And as I said, there's voluminous amounts of stuff and information that we have collected, through the years and the months, and documentation trying to address this with the company that would be really important to share.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Orton.
Thank you.
Nancy Whitcomb.
I'm working on it. Hey, Linda, miss you. I have a question. Actually, it's for Director Nichols. Darren, does DSAC have any role in recommending to the commissioners or to the Planning Commission changes in code dealing with the landfill?
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes,
if I may.
yes, you may. Thank you, Darren.
Yes, I think that is true, Nancy. I'm not an expert on the bylaws for DSAC. I've read through those. I'd have to look back through, but you have a responsibility to report to the board once a year, the comments, questions, and complaints that come into DSAC. So that is one way that the committee can sort of report and make recommendations to the board. But I have to take another look at the bylaws to see, what other avenues are available.
Due to the fact that basically the zoning for the LS zone was put in place in 1982, when I think the volumes were something like 82,000 tons per year, and they're now running, according to this guy who just spoke, at 1.5 million tons per year. It seems to me as though it might be appropriate to reconsider some of the zoning, and if DSAC would like me to, I would be happy to go back to my little computer and write up the types of things that I think it might be useful for DSAC to recommend up to Planning Commission and to the Board of Commissioners, and perhaps to this new ad hoc committee as really fertile grounds for tightening up this zone that might obviate some of the problems that were caused by a lack of compliance with conditional use permits, conditions of compliance in the past. I think those are properly included in the zoning, not in conditions of approval. And I think that might help this whole thing go forward smoothly. And I can do that at the next meeting, not right now.
Thank you, Nancy. Anyone else have any thoughts about that? I think it would be fine. It would. I know that one of the things we did early on a couple of years ago was we looked at bylaws changes, and I put a lot of effort in some suggested language changes, and nothing ever happened with that. I'm not sure what role DSAC has with regard to making recommendations to the Planning Commission relative to the zoning, but I think we could probably go on record for things that we think ought to be done. So if you want to put something together, I have no objection. Anyone else on the committee have any thoughts or comments about that?
I support
Vice
that.
Chair. Oh, sorry.
So Marge said she supports that. Go ahead, Chuck.
I support it in the sense that we have a longevity life on the landfill that was articulated at 1 million to 1.1 million, that gave the spread to 12 to 14 years, if my memory serves me correctly. This is important too, to see what the rate is really coming in, and if they're not handling it, then they won't have the density. It'll have more fluff, so it'll use more volume and cut that life down that everybody was projecting out there to see what alternatives we have. So I think it is relevant, and I think it is also relevant that Republic, since it's the fourth quarter, that we can talk where they are on how they are advancing for the year on the volumes that's going in there.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. Anyone else with regard to Nancy's suggestion?
Okay, I'll do it. I'll try to get it in super early. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Nancy. Appreciate it. So Kevin Kanega.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin Kanega, and I want to thank the committee members for their volunteer work. I know it's hard work, especially when county staff and the Board of Commissioners, our Benton County Board of Commissioners, continue to refuse to help residents of Benton County pursue addressing health, environmental, and safety issues, such as Robert Orton mentioned. Benton County Talks Trash did nothing to address these issues. It was a great process. We learned things, but nothing's happened. Thanks for continuing. It's a long road, but we're making progress. Statesman Journal article was great. We have environmental advocates on our side. This is really becoming a nationwide issue, much more than the residents of Benton County realize. And well, we'll just continue. And thanks again. I really appreciate all of your hard work, and we just need to stick with it. Someday, maybe we'll be able to get the Benton County staff and the Benton County Board of Commissioners to realize that they need to address these issues and not just look at $3 million of discretionary funding income. This is going to be a big expense in the long run for Benton County. It's an environmental issue. We're hearing it again and again. You know, tonight we hear it from an employee of Republic Services. We have brought this up, raised issues, and we're getting there. But Darren, we need you. We need you to get on our side and really do something. Get Benton County to spend some money to address these issues. Find out what's going on. The county just takes in the income, and they're happy with the income, but they're not overseeing this landfill in any way at all. Some of the franchise fee is supposed to be used to oversee the landfill operation. I'd like the county to really dig in, look into that, start using that money the way it's supposed to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. Any other members of the public that want to address the committee at this time? Please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none. Ken, can we get back up to the agenda, please? And I want to do a bit of a time check for folks as well. We just ran right through this. I think Ken had a break on his agenda at 7 o'clock or something, and now we're at 7:45. So doing a little bit of a time check here. If we can bring up the agenda and try to see what we might be able to accomplish here with the time that we have remaining. Okay, so so let's do a sort of a run through this agenda and try to see where we are. So we've got this this agenda item, which is the language on the website relative to the DSAC. Can you show me some more of the agenda so I get a sense of what else is on here?
Yes, sir. Hang on. So next would have been the break. Next we have dealing with the Community Concerns Annual Report. Next is establishing a regular meeting time. Next is just to summarize items to be included in the minutes. I'm not sure that that's necessary, but we have approval of meeting minutes. That's easy to move on to next month, I would say. I mean, we do have to start working on the backlog sometime, but it has been an eventful meeting. And then member requests and wrapping up.
Okay, well, let's go back up to the next item on the agenda, which was the website. And I want to do a bit of a time check for folks. I think that we should be targeting being done with this meeting no later than 8:30, and would be appreciative if other people have other time constraints. I don't want to push us to 8:30 unless everyone is willing to go that far. So can I get a thumbs up or thumbs down with regard to going to 8:30?
How about 8:15?
Okay, there's a motion for 8:15.
I'll second that motion. So
Okay.
8:15 sounds good.
All right, any objections to going to 8:15?
That's
Mr. Vice Chair.
8:15. That's 8:15 tonight. I'm sorry, sending you the meeting. Sorry, I had my grandson talking to me. I can't stay past 8 o'clock tonight.
Okay, and that's Brent who's talking?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. All right. Others?
Mr. Vice
And
Chair,
Debbie says
our staff
8:15.
can stay till 8:30.
Okay, I think the consensus of the committee, or what I'm seeing here, is 8:15. So let's see what we can get done by 8:15, and we'll do a check-in there. Brent, thanks for attending, and I appreciate and understand your time constraint there. So let's move on to this agenda item with regard to the website language. We had some earlier discussion of this. The change in the language that occurred prior to the meeting relative to no longer accepting written comments, and then there was some back and forth and language changes that were there. And I guess I would like to see, I don't know, Ken, if you have on your slide deck here, copy of the language that's currently on the website. Do you have that?
No, unfortunately, I do not.
And I'm wondering then, Darren or Linda, if you could bring that up for us. Are you guys working on that? I didn't hear.
Hey, sorry about that. We're having a reboot threat on the host computer, so we'll get back up on another computer here, so we don't lose the meeting connection. And I will do my best to pull up the site here.
Okay. We'll give that a second or two, and then maybe we can move on and come back once you get it up.
It took me, I took that, right, so I still have the discussion. I might have to shut.
So would you like for me to move to the next item, Mark?
I think that'd be a good idea at this point, Ken. We'll come back to that. So keep working on that.
When you find
Okay,
that
great.
Okay.
So you can see, right, the next item. So this has to do with the community concerns annual report. This may not take long. I mentioned earlier that we have a records request in, or that we do, where we need the information for 2021, and earlier today we requested it for 2022 also. So without that information, we can't begin to collate it, and we do not have that information yet.
So hopefully by our next meeting, we can have both the 2021 and the 2022 concerns report. That's I think that's a question for you, Darren.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. The public records request is at IT and the council's office currently to review basically the size of the request, so the number of responsive documents, and then how much work it'll take to redact sensitive information and present those in a format that's suitable for a public records request. So that request has been made, and I know the Benton County team is working on putting together an estimate of the staff time to produce that. So I don't want to speak on behalf of our colleagues at the other departments, but again, we'll do our best to produce those in time for the meeting.
Yeah, Darren, if I could follow up, I guess I'm a little confused. I understand that Ken has put together a public records request, and I'm not necessarily fully informed as to how that evolved. But this community concerns annual report that is a duty of the disposal site advisory committee doesn't seem like that should require a public records request, right? I mean, this is part of what we're charged with doing.
No, that's correct, Mark. Thanks. I think I maybe conflated the two requests. Unfortunately, Daniel has left for the evening. He's really the best one to answer that, but I believe these are available. I believe they're sort of easily sort of shareable with you all. Again, I don't want to speak for staff, but we'll do our best to get those to you as soon as we can.
Okay, well, I would appreciate it if you could send the committee an email shortly after tomorrow or Friday to let us know the status of both the 2021 report and the 2022 report. That way we can be working on this in advance of the next meeting.
Understood, and we'll do.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. Did you get to the website? And do we have the current website language available to look at?
We do, but we can't share our screen as long as Ken's sharing the agenda. So Ken takes that down, we'll pull the other one
He
up.
just did.
So you can share screen on the green.
You're going to put it up for us?
It should be coming here. Just give it a second. Can you see it now?
Not yet, but it's coming up. All right. Let's see. Let's move down a little bit because what I see is not the full page. All right, I gotta minimize this. Hold on for a second.
Yeah, that's the meeting. There's a page that links to this page that I think we're interested in.
So maybe it's the overview page for.
Yeah, sorry, I'm in the meetings page. We'll get there.
So if I can interrupt, if you go back to the meetings page for DSAC, not for SWAC. So the first page that we were on.
Sorry.
Yeah, so there are two pages. If you look at the blue bar over on the left, there's one which is got to by clicking overview, and there's one that you get to by clicking on disposal site advisory committee in those blue panels. So the main one I think is the disposal site advisory committee, but there's also language to be changed for overview.
Okay, I think this is where we need to be.
Yeah.
And so the language that is subject to some discussion is the second, well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, the second paragraph in bold, and also I'd like to discuss the last sentence that's in bold as well. So the second bold paragraph that says disposal site advisory welcomes public community members, may provide verbal comments. Community member, you'll have to close whatever is going on there.
Yeah, sorry. Can you? I can zoom out, but I'm worried that you might not be able to see the whole. Read it.
No, you're good.
Well.
You're.
Okay.
I think you're good here. I think it's good just the way it is.
Okay.
Okay. So DSAC also welcomes written comments. Written comments must be received by noon. So I think this portion of the language that's now on this website has been sufficiently corrected to clarify that the committee will accept written comments. The area where I have a concern is it is not clear by reading this section that complaints can also be submitted in writing, because the last sentence says to file a solid waste complaint, please call this number. And I am concerned about that language because I don't think that it's appropriate that members of the public have to go through a process to call a phone number to submit a solid waste complaint. So I would appreciate some explanation from Darren, if you will, why complaints are limited to phone calls.
So I don't believe that complaints are limited to phone calls. I believe we'll take complaints in whatever form they arrive, and they do come in a variety of forms. As far as I know, that statement has always been just the statement that's on the website. But we certainly take complaints in whatever form they come.
My apologies, I should not have interrupted you.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true, but I can verify it because I know that someone has done a website history for this page, and I think this language about only calling for a solid waste complaint may be new, but I'm not 100% sure of that. I would appreciate it if this were clarified so that it's made quite clear that complaints, solid waste complaints, may be submitted in writing. And it seems like there ought to be a process whereby the committee can get these complaints directly so that they're not screened by staff in any way. Because I just think it's, from a transparency standpoint, for it to be filtered by staff in terms of what makes its way to the committee, I don't think that's appropriate, but I'm open to have other discussion from other committee members. I just threw my 2 cents in there. So other committee member thoughts? Chuck has a thumbs up.
I'm sorry. I'm getting my thumbs all mixed up here. It's supposed to be a comment. Sorry.
Okay.
We work shoulder to shoulder with staff, so I would like to have a little bit more input from staff too, because they don't necessarily, they are apparent, but sometimes they need to be filtered a little bit to see what the complaint is, I guess. Or if you want the raw honey, not the filtered honey. I think we need to work hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder with the county. And I don't know initially if there's an immediate complaint, there's a long-term complaint and so forth like that. At least when it goes to county, if the landfill is burning, you want to respond quickly, is what I'm getting at, is timing on these things too, and clarity. So I guess it would be better to have them go to staff and make sure they're not unfiltered, and if we can handle them, I guess what I'm getting at.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. Other folks, comments? Committee members regarding whether or not solid waste complaints should be filtered and reviewed by staff before they come to the committee?
I have some comments. So I guess my comment, or one of the things I was thinking about the language here, is just that, there seems to be this sort of differentiation between like a community member comment and a complaint and a concern. When as a member of the public, it's just very hard for me to parse out exactly what I've got, right? if I want to say something about methane, for example, is that a complaint? Is that a comment? Is that a concern? You know, what is it? And so to try to make those, to differentiate those, just seems to me to be putting work upon the public, I guess. I mean, what I would like to see here is just, you know, if you have, I mean, what our charge is for community concerns. So it's complaints, comments, and concerns is what we're interested in. And so I'd like to say, if you have, you know, language that says if you have complaints, comments, or concerns, you can write them in, you can appear in a meeting, you can call this number. And, you know, and then you can add the comment that just says written comments received by noon on the day of a DSAC meeting will be shared with DSAC prior to the meeting. You know, and give the way in which you do each of those things. You know, I don't think that there needs to be a lot of differentiation between trying to parse out whether it's a complaint or a comment or what is it, and, you know, put that in one direction or another. I would like to see something which is just much more kind of inclusive, so that people know that they can communicate in the way that really makes sense to them. And I see that
Yeah.
Debbie is supporting me in the chat there. Thank you, Debbie.
All right, Marge.
Yeah, I agree. And Debbie made a comment also in the chat, that this information, that it should be given to us without being screened.
So Darren, a couple of folks are raising that question about the filtering process or the screening process by staff. And I would appreciate some comment and feedback from you.
Yeah, thanks. We don't screen comments or concerns or questions. We send to you whatever we receive. I think the reason for the phone call option is just what Mr. Gilbert articulated a few minutes ago. Sometimes the concerns need a response more quickly because of the urgency of the situation. It's rare that happens, but sometimes they do. We also don't have the luxury of putting multiple staff on kind of monitoring an email account. So sometimes if someone's on vacation or out sick, we use the phone as one way of providing people more direct access into the department. Just if the solid waste staff happens to be, you know, away from the office. I think I'm hearing you say, several of you say that it would be nice to have multiple options for people. I agree with that. We will do our best to update this so that it's clear. And I agree with you that the website, many aspects of the county's website they're not clear. And that's something that Benton County is addressing currently. We're actually, our colleagues at IT are completing a complete overhaul and moving the website to a new, more user-friendly format, which I think will be rolled out in January. So that's not to say we need to wait till January. It's just to say that we're all very much looking forward to a more usable and more user-friendly website, so that we can just be in better communication with our constituents.
Thank you, Darren. I just want to follow up on Ken's earlier comment before I call on him again. So Ken was suggesting that, you know, the average person might be a little bit confused by reading this language here with regard to parsing out the difference between a complaint, a concern, a comment. So it seems like there could be some editing done to try to make it clear that if you want to communicate to the Disposal Site Advisory Committee anything related to the landfill, whether it be a concern, a complaint, a comment, that this is here, you know, whatever we decide on, here's the format. And that in addition, if they prefer to call, then they can call the number for doing that same thing: comment, concern, complaint, whatever it might be. I thought about calling this number to find out who picks up that phone and how knowledgeable that person might be about the landfill. So maybe you could talk briefly about that. Who gets that call? Does that go directly to Daniel?
Thank you. So I heard a couple things there. One is a suggestion that we use the more generic term communicate. If you want to communicate regarding the landfill, here are the methods whereby you do that. If that's acceptable, generally acceptable, we can edit this so that it's more clear that any communication regarding the landfill, here are the methods to do that. This phone number is the main line to Benton County's Community Development Department. So it actually comes into our front desk. Our front desk staff are trained to direct a wide range of phone calls, building permits, land use permits, or solid waste questions. So if there was a call that came into this number, it would be routed to Daniel's desk within just a few seconds. And if Daniel's away, then it would be routed to another staff member who is knowledgeable and prepared to field questions.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to circle back with you a little bit more on the language, but Ken, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say that, there really is a difference between, there seems to me to be a difference about what method is being used, because to date, I've never heard a phone call or received a report of a phone call. So if someone were to call and comment or whatever, it doesn't seem like that ever comes to the attention of DSAC. So except, maybe a year later or so, when we receive a report of the summation of what the comments have been, which will show that, somebody called about odor, maybe a year ago. So, and I don't know exactly what that phone call was about, I don't know who made it. It's just kind of a checkbox on a spreadsheet or something. So there very much is a difference between what method people use currently and the information that we receive. So isn't that correct, Darren?
Well, I believe so. We take phone calls here. Usually those are questions about where to recycle something. I don't believe those all, we don't send all those customer service phone calls to you. It is the complaints. Typically, my understanding is Daniel works with a person to find a way for them to submit their complaint in writing. So you're seeing most of those as a result of the phone call. You're not going to see all phone calls from the department related to where to recycle certain items or that. Yeah.
Thank you, Darren. Marge?
I actually just called that number, and a recording told me that it was the building division.
Oops.
Yeah, it's Benton County's Community Development main line. So I'll work on that. I'll work on that after hours message.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so to sort of move on from this particular topic, what I'd like to suggest, Darren, for your consideration is maybe you and I and Ken could work on some revised language that would be posted up here. If we can reach agreement on that revised language, then we can get, so we don't have to have IT or Daniel or whoever does the language changes here. We can hopefully get on the same page before we do the update, and we could do that quickly if in the next couple of days if possible. I don't know what your schedule looks like, Darren.
Yeah, thanks. I will be out of the office, but I'm happy to, we can work on language. I'm going to be actually at a conference for the next couple of days, but I'm happy to work on language, and I think it's worth getting this right. You're also welcome to share, work with Linda or with Shannon Bush here at our office. We have, other staff members that can work on language.
Well, I'm hopeful that whatever language we put up, is okay by the county, so that we're hopefully on the same page with what the objectives are here for communication.
Yeah, I think so. That's a very legitimate request, Mark. Let's find a time. We're all, busy, but let's find a time when we can work on getting language that meets the needs.
Okay, yeah, well, maybe it's something, maybe Ken and I can work on revising some language, send it off to you, so you don't have to get engaged until we're on the same page, because he and I might not be on the same page. You never know. We can work on that, submit something to you. Best to do that to your email.
So please send that to Daniel Reddick.
Okay.
You can copy me. Daniel's going to do most of the work on this. Anyway, just that's his job. So send it to Daniel Reddick, copy me on the email, and then we'll figure out how best to get it up and make sure that we can actually staff whatever you put forward and propose. That's another key kind of consideration for us. But
yeah, I don't see it being a major, we're not writing paragraphs here. It's going to be sort of repackaging the information that's here. At least that's how I envision it. And yeah. I would rely on you to communicate to Daniel, because he wasn't here for this discussion, what our objectives are here in terms of everybody on the same page with being clear for our citizens. Good with that?
Yes, thank you.
All right, I have a time check of 8:13. What can we do in 2 minutes? I don't know where we are on this agenda, so let's see.
It doesn't really matter. There's nothing left on the agenda, except adjourn, which we can do in 2 minutes. I think that we need to call it. I know that certainly I'm getting tired. And we'll push what's left to the next meeting. I think it'll have to be that way.
Okay, that sounds good. And we saw Debbie's comment here about please include the outcome of this topic on our next meeting. Thank you, Mark, Ken, and Darren. So yes, we'll make sure that we so you don't individually have to go and check the website. We'll make sure that we include the language that's settled as part of our next agenda, if someone can remember to do that. All right, so anything else for the good of the order this evening? Appreciate everyone's patience. And I see Chuck with his hand up. Go ahead, Chuck. We have about 30 seconds, Chuck.
Vice Chair, I just want to thank all the members and the director and staff tonight, because this was a harrowing thing we're going through, where it's almost like a rebirth here, and we come through it okay.
Harrowing, that's an interesting word there. It was a little challenging. I don't know about harrowing, but thank you, Chuck, for that comment. Robert, the time for the time for
briefly, I just wanted to mention that we can sit and talk about this forever, but unless the people responsible for holding Republic services responsible do their job, myself as a member of the community, everyone in this community, and the environment will continue to suffer. People at the county level, people at the state level, and people at the federal level continue to disregard what's going out there, and it is costing us all. That's all I have to say. Thank you all for listening.
And thanks for your participation tonight, Robert. Appreciate it. Ken?
I just had a note here in my own, agenda, which is that remember to gavel out properly. So you need to entertain a motion, and so I move that we adjourn.
And is there a second for that motion? Marge raises her hand to
I
second
second
that
it.
motion. Yeah, she
Actually,
seconds it.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm still the chair, right? So I can't make a motion.
That's correct. Yeah.
So
but
I'll
go-
make the motion to adjourn.
And I will second the motion to adjourn. And now all those in favor, you need to say that, Ken, and then we're good.
Yes.
Whatever.
Yes. All those in favor? I think we're all in favor.
Yes, we are.
Yes. Thank you all
right,
very
thanks,
much.
Thanks, everyone. See you next month.
Bye.
Yes.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.